Well, we're now also joined by Linden Birns, who joins me from our Cape Town studios to share his thoughts on the low-cost aviation society in South Africa. Linden, maybe if we can pick up on the issue of talent as well as employability, just because it is one of interest coming from a chief executive of a highly respected and a JSE-listed firm. Maths and science, the talent isn't here in South Africa. The interest also appears not to be here in South Africa. Surely this will add further constraints to the low-cost aviation society in the country.
Well, I think we have a dearth of or shortage of skilled people for all of the skills in the airline industry. Just not enough people are looking at the air transport sector as a home for employment. You know, it's a microcosm of society. We need pilots and engineers, as Eric was alluding to. We also need good, legal minds and financial minds and marketing and sales and commercial people as well. So, you know, whatever you're studying, there's pretty much a home for you in aviation.
Just to go back to the broader issues of aviation, Eric did also mention that the economic fundamentals aren't really positive at the moment. So what's your take on the increased competition with the likes of Fly Safair and Sky entering the market?
Sure. Yeah, well, I think competition is going to be good. But competition can't exist without the regulatory framework that enables it. And that's what we're missing in Africa. This is what you've had in Europe that's enabled the success of the EasyJets and the Ryanairs and the Air Berlins. Europe decided they were going to liberalize the bilateral air transport agreement framework between the member states, and they said, right, from now on, any European registered airline can fly between any points in Europe that they wish. So you have Ryanair, for example, an Irish-based airline, with hardly any of its flights actually touching down in Ireland. Now, what we don't have is a similar situation in Africa. Here, we're still using an archaic system or network of bilaterals that go back to the mid-1940s, that prescribe the amount of capacity on any given route. They prescribe who can operate. They say how many flights a week. Pretty much everything short of just telling you how thick the sandwich should be that can be served and how plumped up the pillow can be, in business class. And that's not good for competition. That's not good at all for economic growth. And IATA, just this evening, in fact, in Addis Ababa, are presenting a report that was commissioned by them onto the economic benefits of greater connectivity in Africa. And they're saying that if African countries, if the African Union and its member states adopted a more liberal set of reciprocal bilateral frameworks, they could add round about, I think it was another 5 million passengers to the network, create 155,000 more jobs, and add another $1.5 billion to GDP in the continent. And that's significant. At the moment, aviation only accounts for about $7 billion. So you're almost able to double that if you start looking more progressively at how you regulate air transport in the continent.
Linden, to how much, what exactly is holding us back from moving in the right direction, and how much of it involves state interests with national carriers across the continent?
A lot of it does. A lot of it is about monopoly protection. A lot of it's about states saying, well, we want to protect our market from, from a glut from somewhere else. But, if we look at a country like Ethiopia or Kenya, for example, we've seen how those countries have put air transport connectivity front and central of their economic growth and development plans. And you look at Ethiopia, the airline on its own is recording something like 14% per annum growth and a double-digit profit margin. By the way, the average profit margin for African airlines last year was 1.4% on revenue. It's pathetic. We're looking at about a $200 million combined profit across the continent, the weakest in the world. So a lot of this is protectionism driven by governments who are being very short-sighted. And if they looked at the greater economic picture and the benefits that could be had by stimulating trade, allowing more connectivity, helping that middle class that's emerging, that have the money and the appetite and the desire to travel, to let them travel and make it affordable, then we're in for a boom. But if we don't have that that outlook, then we may as well, you know, forget about seeing that boom.
Linden, does seem like we need to get you back on the show for more insights. Good talking to you, and thank you for your time today. That was Linden Birns, who's the MD of Plain Talking.